Just because you are burning fat or using fat as fuel does not mean that you are losing fat. Let me say that again because it is the one thing that you really need to understand to really excel and be successful in your fat loss journey. Just because you are using fat as a fuel does not mean that you are losing body fat. Let me explain that. A lot of people look at utilizing fat burners as a way to accelerate their progress, right? Because think of the name, fat burner. Let's burn some fat. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what do these things do? And I'm namely talking about over-the-counter fat burners, okay? Things like caffeine, green tea extract, things of that nature. What they essentially do is increase your body's thermogenesis, right? The ability to create heat through energy, right? The creation of energy releases heat. The breakdown of nutrients releases heat, right? Those things increase your body's core temperature, and therefore you burn more energy, more calories. Now, if you're not in a caloric deficit, it doesn't matter how much actual fat you're burning, it doesn't matter how many calories you're burning. If it's not in a deficit, you're not going to lose body fat. So one of those marketing gimmicks, right? I would love to lose fat. So what should I do? Buy a fat burner. Now, let's talk about what's actually effective. Okay? And that's the whole purpose of this video. Yes, I want to give you a little background of what fat burners are in a nutshell, in addition to make sure that you have a good idea of what burning fat is. And I want to drive that point home. It doesn't matter how much fat you're using as energy. If things shuttle fat to be used, if your body is not in a caloric deficit, it is not going to lose fat. It will mobilize that fat. It'll use it as energy, but then it'll just store it again, maybe in a different place, because you haven't actually used that energy or you're not in a deficit. So first one is going to be caffeine, first and foremost. One of the most common, stable, and used supplements, drugs, right, for fat burning, okay? The reason why it's considered a fat burner, it increases that thermogenesis, right? It's going to increase your calorie burn, it's going to increase your heart rate, it's going to increase your core body temp. In addition, it's going to have secondary effects like appetite suppression, right? You're going to be able to push harder because you're more focused, right? So those are the secondary effects. I think caffeine is really a staple in anybody's workout or performance program in relatively safe amounts. I have another video on caffeine, directly about caffeine, that you can watch. Another over-the-counter fat-burning supplement would be yohimbine. Okay, yohimbine HCl. There's also rowolsine, which is essentially yohimbine without the super crazy anxiety issues. Yohimbine, at the end of the day, what it does is a beta-adrenergic receptor agonist, okay, antagonist, one of the two. Okay, don't worry about the terminology. It's hard to remember 5 million things and then remember these small details. But your body, especially as it starts to be in a calorie deficit longer and burn more fat, it's going to start shut off the processes of burning that fat. It's going to make it harder. So imagine you have this much fat, right? In the beginning, you'll start losing it like this, and then slowly it'll get harder and harder and harder and harder, and you have to do 10 times as much work to lose that little bit of fat. It's because your body does not only not have that much fat, it slows down its internal processes, but also doesn't want to mobilize those certain areas of fat. Okay, there is no such thing as targeting specific areas of fat, but there are certain areas of the body where blood flow is not as easy. So mobilizing or taking that fat to be used for energy makes it harder. Things like yohimbine or rowolsine help to mobilize that fat. Anecdotally, you do see more fat loss within the lower back, midsection area from using those compounds. Now, be warned, I should have probably started with this when I brought up yohimbine, but when it comes to the secondary effects, side effects of it, it can be very strong. You should start with the lowest possible dose, whether that's 1 milligram or 3 milligrams, and taper your way up. Okay. I don't ever give dosing protocols. The only thing I'm going to give is tell you how low you should start, because I don't want you overtaking it. And understand what the dosing actually is. Some people say 3 milligrams and they think 3 grams and they take 3 grams and you're completely screwed. Okay. It will act very strongly on your anxiety, your feeling of stress, just similar parasympathetic and sympathetic responses. Okay. Now, I do think that yohimbine and rowolsine are best used in a fasted state. Might even be a little bit better than caffeine, or it can be used in conjunction with caffeine because they act on different receptors. So you can get the benefits of caffeine, but also the yohimbine, specifically being used in a fasted state, will help mobilize fatty acids a little bit more. So those are going to be the first and the second more effective over-the-counter fat burners. Everything else, in my opinion, is going to come third through last, right? All at the same level. Anywhere from CLA to green tea extract. Like, these are super mild. You might find some baby benefit, but the reason why I'm not going to go so far in depth with anything other than those two that I mentioned is just not only from my experience, but the dollar is not worth the dollar that you put in is not worth the investment back. Now, I will make another module talking about non-over-the-counter fat burners that might be effective. But if you focus your training, nutrition and cardio program, fat loss program around those things, right? Training, nutrition, cardio, and lifestyle, the fat burners I'm talking about here will add a cherry on the top, but you cannot rely on them solely. In addition, I don't think there's much of a benefit of using them as a fat burner or thermogenic if you're not in a caloric deficit. Now, I understand somebody using caffeine as a benefit for other things like focus, energy, right? Definitely understand that. But for the purpose of using it for fat burning or to increase the amount to get more of a fat burning effect, I think is not worth it. One thing I did want to mention, things like, well, they don't really make synephrine anymore. They make it like a more watered down version of it, more legal version. DMAA is variable of where it's going to be legal, in addition to epinephrine, right? Things of that nature. Those compounds, again, anything over the counter is going to be very, very limited in its use. It's best to stay tried and true with the things that have the most research, the most time, and most effective results that have been given through that. That's why I always harp on the caffeine inhibin being the first mode of fat burning aids over the counter. If you found this information useful, please subscribe to my channel. In addition, if you'd like to know what it'd be like to work with me directly, one-on-one, being coached by me, feel free to go to the channel description. There's a link in there, application for my coaching. In addition, if I sent this to you via DM or some sort of messenger, just reach back. Let me know that you'd like to know some more of my coaching process, and I'd be happy to explain that to you. Or if that's a little bit too much for you, you could just DM me, coach me, and I'll happily explain to you how the process works.